Well, hello there, challengees, and welcome to the Always Better Challenge Show. I'm Joe Bedford, your host. Very happy to be with you here today. Of course, this is the show that helps you take steps today that lead to being better and happier tomorrow. And as always, we're going to start the show with our quote of the day, which also serves as our topic introduction. And today's quote is from Dom Fawcett. Now, that may be a name you're not familiar with. This is actually a gentleman I ran across on LinkedIn and saw what he posted about the topic I wanted to discuss today. And I loved this quote and wanted to use it and got his permission to do so. And Dom's quote is, "Dress how you want to be addressed." Love that. So yes, we are going to talk today about wardrobe. And I'll be honest with you, the idea that I wanted to do a show on this topic occurred to me very early on. But I was concerned at first that it would be considered too trivial a topic by you guys, by the audience. You know, the show is all about motivation and inspiration, and we've talked about a lot of very tactical, practical stuff as well, ways to have a better life in finance and career and fitness and all those important areas of your life. And I was worried that this topic might come across as trivial and unimportant and shallow and all of those things. But, well, two things. Well, first of all, it's a topic that I love. It's something that I'm excited about, something that I wanted to talk about, and something that I've learned one or two things about. But the interesting thing was that as I did some research in trying to prepare this episode, the more I really realized that I feel really good about presenting this topic now. I feel like this is really more important maybe even than I was thinking about. So, and I'll share some of what I learned with you as we go along. Now, I want to go ahead and give a disclaimer right up front. Obviously, I am a man, and I have learned one or two things about how to dress as a man. For the women watching, no, I do not know much about how to dress a woman. But, quit, no, don't turn it off, don't turn it off. I'm asking you to stick with me for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that I do know that many women out there have a lot to do with dressing the men in their lives. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really thrilled with that particular development. That's actually something I'm going to encourage the guys not to do, so you can delete that part of the video if you're sharing this with them. But I know that is the case. The second reason I'm asking you to stick with me is that although I don't know much specifically about dressing women, I know that the content that I'm going to present today, a lot of it is not going to be gender specific, and it's going to apply to you too. I really feel like the women watching will get something out of this episode as well. At least that is my fervent hope. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic today. And I'm going to take a drink. Excuse me. Oh, that's what happens when you do it live. You drink it, Joe, don't breathe it. So, why did I decide that I wanted to present this topic, and why did I decide that this was a significant enough topic to address? Why is wardrobe important? Why is how we dress important? Well, what if I told you that it has been shown that the more care you put into your wardrobe, the more money you make? I just want to check. I just want to do a quick poll here. I don't want to assume anything. How many of you watching would like to make more money, or at least wouldn't mind to make more money? Is that okay? Show of hands. Those of you who are not interested in making more money, just go ahead and do it anyway, and you can send that to me. No, I think most of us would like to make a little bit more, and it has been shown that dress does play a role in that. It does. Okay, you may be a little skeptical here, but what if I told you it made you smarter? Would you believe me? Well, some of the research and digging around that I did, maybe smarter isn't the right word, but it was demonstrated that how you dress can affect how you think. It's a lot of things, self-confidence, a lot of things, but it really can affect that. How we dress can affect our mind and how our mind works and the way we think. You have certainly heard the phrase "dress for success." So, I don't think any of what I'm telling you here comes as a surprise. That phrase came from somewhere, and it is because success in lots of areas of life is correlated somewhat with how we dress. And one point that I don't think anyone would argue with is that how you dress can give you actual authority. Nothing more than how you dress can give you actual authority. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things in this show, but that idea that I think we all know that first impressions or whatever you want to call it, but how you dress is definitely going to affect how other people interact with you, what they think about you, how closely they listen to what you say. As I say, it gives you actual authority. And I think if you think about that, you can see how that does play out in real life. So, kind of tying in with that idea of how it affects your mind, I want to share with you something and again, one of the many reasons why I wanted to do this show. I'm a big believer that how I dress affects how I think. And I use that to my advantage in one particular way, which may sound odd, which is that, as you know, I do own my own business, and my business does not have an external office. So any of my office work I do from my home office at home during the day. My wife has a day job outside of the home, so when I'm working at home, I am often home alone working. So, you might think that, Joe just sits around in his pajamas all day. No, that is the exact opposite of what I do. I still put extra attention into how I dress, even when I'm home alone, for no other reason that I'm not even going to say believe, I know it affects how I feel, how I think. It affects my energy level. It affects how I present myself, how I approach my work. It affects all that stuff. It does. It does. Now, I'm not going to say, and I'll talk more about this later, because I don't want to give you the idea that when I'm talking about the importance of dress or giving attention to your dress or your wardrobe, that it means you have to wear a three-piece suit or a tie all the time. That's not what it means. It means a lot of things, but we can be appropriate to our environment and what we're doing. But I just want to caution you with that. I don't want to, I can imagine some of you thinking, I don't like ties, or I don't want to wear this, or I don't want to wear that. And it's not always about that. Maybe it can be, but it's not always about that. And we'll talk about that more as we go. But I wanted to put that out there, that it doesn't have to mean that. So don't tune out just yet. Also, I'm just a big believer in however you want to word it, a holistic approach or the domino effect. In other words, we talk about a lot of different ways or a lot of different areas to work on in our lives to make our lives better, our physical health, our mindset. Today we're talking about our clothes. I really believe that all of those are an important part of the big picture. They all help in their own way. And so, and one leads into the other. Attention in one area or improvement in one area makes improvement in another area easier. I believe that. I've seen that in my own life. And so again, this is just another area for us to improve if we can, and which will help other areas of our life and vice versa. It's a great flow back and forth that works, and I love the way that works. So an objection that I can imagine some of you raising, I'll bet some of you have already thought something along these lines in your mind already. Well, but it's not fair. It's not fair that people are going to look at me different because of how I'm dressed. It's not fair that people are going to judge me based on how I'm dressed. It should be enough that I'm smart and capable and I'm good at my job or I'm good at whatever it is that I'm doing. And it's not fair. It's not fair. My answer to that, and you all know this, we can complain about it being fair. We can argue about whether it's fair or not. But here's what we can't argue about, I don't think, is that it's real. People do make assumptions based on your dress and your outward appearance in other ways, based on first impressions. And although we may say it's not fair to do, I'm going to put the magnifying glass on you or whatever. Look at yourself. Are you going to really tell me that you don't do it? Are you and you can argue with me and say that I'm wrong, but I think most, if not all, people do this to an extent. You listen more closely or give more authority or importance to someone who looks one way based on someone who looks another. You make, as I said, assumptions, which may be wrong, but you're still going to make them. First impressions. You're going to do it. I'll bet, like I say, I do it. I'll be very honest, and I'll bet most of you do too. And, think about it. The way we dress and, other things about our outward appearance, it can be a way to command instant respect, which will help us. So why would we not want to do it? If it's something, that can do that for us, why would we not want to do it? Another thing, and you can say, well, it's not fair. I'm smart and I'm capable. And I'm sure you are, but think about what else what am I trying to say? Things about yourself that you can highlight, assets that you have that you can highlight through your wardrobe. What I mean by that is it can show that you have an attention to detail and that you give attention to those things. So it can show, it's a way to show that inner asset that you have and to manifest that externally. I know when we're talking about, that it's not fair, I think of the saying, maybe some of y'all thought of this too, where, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Well, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't, but here's what I would ask you. Why do books have covers? Is part of it at least not to get your attention and to draw you in and to make a good first impression? So why should we not try to do that with our clothing and with our wardrobe as well? And just think about products in the marketplace, things that are for sale. Do you think that the manufacturers don't give any care or any thought to the packaging for those products? Of course not. They want to put those in a package that's going to be appealing to people. Why should we not put ourselves in a package that's appealing, not just to other people, but to us too? And that's something that we'll talk about as we continue with this topic. And besides, you never know who you'll run into. Has that ever happened to you when you go to the grocery store with the curlers in your hair or the dirty t-shirt or the whatever, and then you run into whoever and you think, oh, I hate for them to see me looking like this. So, well, why not try not to look like that when you're out and about or even at home, as I've said previously today. Again, I'm trying not to repeat myself, but just important points I want to emphasize. How you dress yourself changes who you are. It changes the value of what you have to say, at least to the people who are looking and listening. So I want to make sure I've made that point. Now, we're not going to just talk about wardrobe at work, but I think that's certainly an important thing to talk about. And, again, talking, revisiting our point of, is it fair? I do a great job. Should I be judged? But knowing that you're going to be, knowing that your superiors are going to look at how you're dressed, and, you may say, yeah, but, I want to have my style, or, or whatever. And not that I'm saying you don't want to have your own style, but you also want to think, at least, I would say at least at work. Even if I can't convince you to care the rest of the time, at least at work, I think you want to be aware of the of how others are seeing you, especially your superiors, but even your coworkers. And just to put it this way, just to put it real blunt like this, okay, the style or wearing what you want to wear, even if it's not what's going to give the best impression, is that really more important? I mean, that's the point I want to make. When you're at work, is that feeling that you get from wearing whatever that is comfortable or whatever, but it isn't making the best impression, is that really more important than doing well at your job and making a good impression and having better relationships with the people that you work with? Just something to think about. Maybe I convince you there and maybe I don't. I only mention that because that's something, as I was growing up that I struggled with, and it finally occurred to me. The example that I'm thinking of actually had nothing to do with my wardrobe, but I, like a lot of young people when I was a young person, I had long hair. And so I said all the arguments, that I said, oh, well, it's not fair to judge me. I'm still the smart, same person. And besides, it's my freedom of expression and, all that stuff. And it finally occurred to me, that's really, I decided was trivial compared to, what, is my hair really that important that I want to put that over other things in my life that are going to make my life better, and those good working relationships and making a good impression on superiors and things like that? I was like, no, that's, who cares? That's a trivial thing to worry about, or that's a silly fight to pick, or a silly line in the sand to draw, is what I decided for myself. I'm just telling you me. I'm not saying that you have to do that. But yeah, I put that's where I put the importance. As I said, I tried to, in a work environment, I tried to dress for my superiors and my peers and customers. If you have a job that has any sort of relation with customers, the people that pay your paycheck, come on, let's make a good impression on them. Let's look good for them. And another point to make in the workplace is, are you ever in a position where you want or need to convince someone of something? You're trying to bring someone around to your way of thinking, perhaps? Do you think how you dress, again, might have an impact there? Just put that out there as a question. You can answer that for yourself and decide if you think it does or does not. Excuse me. Another quote that perhaps some of you have heard, and good advice I think that I'm going to give you, is that you don't want to just dress for the job you have. You want to dress for the job you want. So if you aspire to climb higher in your career, you want to dress like that person. Go ahead and do it now so others can visualize you as being in that role, and that will be not incongruent for them. Dress for the role you want. Dress for what you want out of life. I think that is great advice. As I've already said, again, just to reiterate, this doesn't necessarily have to be formal business attire that we're talking about. Not even at work necessarily. The workplaces vary. At some workplaces, I know that a three-piece button-down suit would probably be more of a liability than a strength. Although I hate to say that because I really love just dressing just to the nines. It's fun. Just something we'll talk about later. But yeah, you do want to dress appropriate to your work environment. I have no problem with that. Again, the only challenge I would give you is just giving, a little more attention to details, and we'll talk what I mean in a little bit about some of the details that I would encourage you to look at. One other point that I want to make before we move on is I'm going to talk a little bit about some rules for dressing. I think it's important to know and understand the basic rules. I do think that's important. I'm not going to tell you that you always have to follow them, but I think the first part is knowing the rules. And then if you decide to break them, that's a little more of a strategic decision, or again, a way for you to show some personal style and individuality if that's important to you and something that you want to do. But I think it's good to know the rules first before you make the decision that you're going to break them. So I will talk about some of those. And I'm actually thinking of some that I didn't put in my notes, so hopefully I'll remember to go over those. So what are the rules? I'm going to start off with what, in my opinion, is the number one rule. If you don't get anything else out of this show, if you get this, I've accomplished something. The number one rule is to always, always, always wear clothes that fit properly and correctly, that are not too big and not too small. I can't tell you how often I see folks that haven't done that, and it ruins everything. Even if you're dressed casually, and that's going to be a point that I make, I hope I can even upgrade your casual dressing skills, because there's nothing wrong with dressing casually sometimes. I certainly dress casually sometimes, but I still want to look good, even when I'm dressed casual. Wear clothes that fit. And again, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people who obviously have put some effort into their clothes, and they're wearing the tie and they're wearing the coat, but it doesn't fit, and it just destroys anything good that was accomplished by dressing up. Wear clothes that fit. Buy clothes that fit. If they don't fit, go get the darn things altered. Get clothes that fit. I would hope it would go without saying too, make sure they're clean. Make sure that they are like there's no visible damage or anything like that. Always check yourself in the mirror just to make sure. Maybe you just a good clothes brush is a good investment. Maybe you just got to brush something off, or you see something that needs repair and you repair it or replace it or do whatever. But just check that. But make sure it fits, clean, and in good repair, and not wrinkled. Again, that's why you're checking in the mirror. And I'm not going to talk too much about this today because it's outside of the scope, but we are talking about appearance. So, don't forget your hygiene as well. That's obviously a part of your wardrobe, if you will. And again, that's why you're checking in the mirror, to make sure you look as good as you can before you head out the door. Another point that I want to make, because I'm sure this is a common worry or objection or whatever you want to say when it comes to clothing, is, I can't afford to spend a gazillion dollars looking good. No, you do not have to spend tons of money to look good. First of all, like I said, if you don't do anything else but make sure you get clothes that fit when you get clothes, if you weren't doing that before, you've already upgraded yourself right there. You also don't necessarily have to buy the most expensive things. Now, one thing I will say, though, is that I would personally rather buy one good item of clothing than two not so good. So, I'll go for quality over quantity every day of the week when it comes to my clothes. The other point, though, to make, and I live by this, my wife will tell you, if you didn't learn it from me talking in the money episode, I don't like to use the word cheap. I prefer the word frugal, because that's an asset, not a liability. But you don't have to pay retail. I can't count the number of items of clothing that I have that I paid full retail price for. There are lots of ways to get bargains. I mean, even if you just, shop the sale racks, or you go to the outlet stores, or you go to eBay. I buy a lot of clothes on eBay, and some of them are lightly used. I don't turn my nose up at that as long as they look good. And I've gotten some really nice items on eBay. I could do a whole show bragging about the good deals I got. I mean, the Brooks Brothers woolen cashmere full-length trench coat that I got, and I don't remember how much I paid for it, but I guarantee you it was probably 25% of what it would have cost me in the store. I wouldn't have wanted to spend as much as that would have been in the store, but I was happy with the deal I got. So yeah, you don't have to spend a ton of money. Never pay retail. So what other rules? Your belt is supposed to match your shoes in color. Does everybody know that rule? That's a rule. Again, if you decide you want to break it, but you know the rule. One that I think folks get confused on is that your socks are supposed to match. Do you know what your socks are supposed to match? Did you say shoes? No, not your shoes, your pants. And there's actually a logic behind that. These rules weren't just made up randomly. There is a logic behind them. The idea is that if your socks and your pants are a similar color, it lengthens the line and just gives you a smoother, cleaner look. I break this rule sometimes. I'll wear the crazy Argyle socks sometimes, and sometimes I'll do that. But that is a quote-unquote rule to be aware of. The other rule that I wanted to make sure I mentioned that I forgot to put in my notes is that you don't need to be afraid to mix patterns. But if you do that, you want the patterns to be different either in the pattern or the scale. For example, if you've got a shirt that's big window pane plaid, you can still have a similar pattern in your tie as long as the tie is the squares are much smaller. So you want that difference in scale. That's a very important point to remember. Or if the patterns are completely different, usually you'll be okay there. You still might want to check with the just check yourself in the mirror. Or another tip that's also not in my notes. I'm realizing stuff I've left out of my notes. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this tip now because I'm afraid I'll forget. And this, for me, has been one of the most helpful tips for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just me. I don't think it is, but I want to make sure I give you this tip. I keep telling you to check yourself in the mirror, and I want you to do that. But I have found it very helpful to get pictures of my clothes, my outfits. As I say, I'm not sure why, but I see things in pictures that I don't see in mirrors. This has been real helpful for me in figuring out what colors, when I just found, okay, it was in my notes to talk about the pictures. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but that is really helpful for me in that regard. So I'll talk more about that in a moment. I want to just breeze through real quick a kind of a hierarchy, for want of a better word, and try and talk about some things that are more dressy, less dressy. Maybe this is common sense. I don't know. Obviously, a suit is the most formal, one of the most formal things a man can wear. I mean, getting outside of a tuxedo and, white tie and black tie. But for most, work and career and walking around type of stuff, a suit is going to be at the top. And this is another, and I can't remember who said this, or if this may have just been something I heard somebody say, not somebody famous, but it's always stuck with me, is that and you can argue, but you're not going to convince me, a man never, ever, ever is going to look any better than he looks when he's wearing a suit. So I'm just throwing that out there. Step down from that would be you can wear still a shirt and a tie and a coat and pants, but it can be a sport coat. It doesn't necessarily have to match the pants like a suit does. So that would be one step down in dressiness. Another step down that some guys maybe don't think about is you can wear the shirt and the tie and a sweater. That can sort of stand in for the sport coat. It's a little more casual, approachable, might be really appropriate for some environments. I'm trying to, see, that's what happens. I do the show live. I don't edit it. I've told you that. Excuse me. The sweater. The next step down in the hierarchy is you could lose the tie and just wear the shirt. You can still wear the coat with it if you like. That's a cool look sometimes. You could then step down from your Oxford collared shirt to a polo shirt with a collar. One step down in dressiness. Then you could change from, pants to jeans, and, you could change your shirt to a tee. So that's, the t-shirt. So that's, dropping from more formal to more casual. Like I say, a lot of that's probably common sense. I'm trying to decide if I want to talk you out of being, as I say, there's nothing wrong with dressing casually. I do it myself sometimes. You will see me in a t-shirt and jeans sometimes. I guess I just want to challenge you if you're one of those people that says, well, I'm just a t-shirt and jeans kind of person. Try upgrading just a little bit sometimes. Just see how it feels. Just try it. That's all I'm going to throw out there for now. And even when you're casual, you don't always have to wear your tennis shoes. Upgrade your shoes a little bit sometimes, maybe, even when you're being casual. I'm trying to put some little thoughts in your mind. Maybe don't wear the baseball cap. Maybe. You're not playing baseball. Or if you're playing baseball, you can wear it. The rest of the time, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe. Just throwing that out there. Just stating some of my preferences. Another point, I was just checking to see if this is in my notes, and I didn't. I'm gonna say this. Some people are not gonna like this. I personally do not like to see a man wear shorts unless he's in the gym or working out. And again, I'm not going to say I never do it. If it's really hot and I've got to be outside or something, I'll cave and for the comfort. But I really try not to. You will not see me very often wearing shorts unless I'm in the gym. And the reason is, and again, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not trying to offend anybody or insult anybody, but a man just looks kind of childish to me when he's wearing shorts. It just makes me, that's just that's just what it puts in my mind. And while I'm putting thoughts in your head, can we talk about the cargo pants? Can we talk about the cargo shorts? Do we have to do that? Do we have to? See, I'm stating opinions now, some, which I hope is okay. But I'm just trying to get you to think about stuff. Maybe you decide, oh, I'm going to wear my cargo pants. I think they look great. Okay, you can. I'm not going to tell you not to. I'm not going to wear cargo pants. I just think they look, I don't know, sloppy, messy. I don't know. They just do. That's how they strike me. So yeah, I'm letting some of my opinions hang out there. I hope, like I say, I hope that's okay. Yes, just sorry, double checking my notes again, doing it live, trying to make sure I'm where I want to be. Yeah, I talked about the taking pictures and how that helps me. I have found that helps me figure out what colors look good on me. For some reason, that's harder for me to see in the mirror. It's easier to do with pictures. So, use that. Keep in mind as well that light colors can be fun, but they can be dangerous. It's a little easier to show dirt and whatnot. I'm not going to tell you not to wear light colors, just something to be aware of. If it's a real important event you're dressing for, you might want to think, you might want to go to the Navy. Another point I want to make is to have wardrobe pieces that you love, have items that you love to wear. Think about getting rid of the rest. That'll maybe encourage you to get new stuff. It's not just about getting rid of stuff, but just have stuff that you love. Because you're always going to wear it anyway. When I've got stuff in my closet and I'm always bypassing it to go to something I like better, I'm going to get rid of that stuff. I'm going to sell it or donate it. And as I said, think about trying to get some new stuff that I love. Last point I want to leave you with, and I mentioned this earlier, have fun. I'm not talking about doing something miserable. I'm not talking about choking yourself with a tie all the time if that's not what you want to do. Have fun. Think about trying to look good, looking your best. That's fun. For me, it is. I'd like you to give it a try if it's something you've not explored in the past and see if it might be fun for you too. And you want to talk about a creative outlet, there's your creative outlet right there. You can be very creative in putting together your wardrobes. So, my daily challenge is so often so serious because I'm really trying to spur you, to do something great. I'm going to back off from this one. I'm just going to say, have some fun with your wardrobe the next week. That's my challenge to you. Have fun. Play with it. Experiment. Have fun. Done for today. That's the show. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. If you haven't signed up for our free motivational emails, those go out every weekday, you can sign up for those at the website abetterchallenge.com or alwaysbetterchallenge.com. Either one works. Keep the questions and suggestions coming. Thank you so much for watching. I am Joe Bedford, your host. Until next time, go out there and make it happen.